Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about Lueira, her best builds, card, transcendence levels, and more. So without further ado, let's get started. Lueira is our second frost healer and the first shielder slash sub DPS healer we've gotten in the game. And honestly, her damage is really good for a healer. So let's break down her kit starting with her ultimate. At level 3, her ult gives her a shield equal to 300% of her own HP for 15 seconds. This shield is very important because it actually counts toward her damage, and I will explain this part in a bit. On top of that, her ultimate also gives your whole team a 17.5 damage reduction and a 10% increased healing received, and both of these effects last for 15 seconds, and the skill has a 30 seconds cooldown. Okay, now moving on to her active skill. It heals all allies for 100% of her own attack at level 3, and at the same time it creates another shield equal to 160% of her own HP for 10 seconds, and the skill has a 12 seconds cooldown. So as you can see, Lueira's entire kit revolves around her constantly shielding herself, healing the team, and converting those shields into extra damage through her passive, and that's where she starts to become way more interesting than normal healer. Now let's talk about her passives, because this is where her damage actually comes from. Her first one triggers an additional hit that deals damage equal to a mix of 25% of her max shield and 125% of her own attack. So in simple terms, when Lueira doesn't have a shield, she's basically your standard healer. Her healing is fine, but when she gets a shield, which she can get naturally from her ultimate and active skill, she becomes a DPS in the healer, and her damage jumps significantly, by the way. And the tankier the shield is, the stronger her damage becomes. Now a quick shield mechanic explanation, because this part is very important. In Lost Sword, as you know, shields do not stack on a single character. Only the strongest shield stays active when it comes to damage taken. So in Lueira's case, her ultimate shield will overwrite and replace her active skill shield if she has it on, since it has much higher multipliers in comparison. However, for her passive damage calculation is a bit different. The game actually counts the total shield value that she has at that specific moment. So including shields from other characters, by the way, which is super insane. So for example, if you use her ultimate and stack Eren's shield and Diane's shield on top of those, all of those will add up and increase Lueira's total shield value for her passive damage, even though she only has the strongest one. Let's just say the one that comes from her ult on her HP bar. You know what, it's better to show you a small example. As you can see, her damage with only her own shield, just ignore Galahad's numbers because you can't run a team with just a healer, so sorry about that. And for the second team, I can't use either Eren or Diane because they also give extra passive buffs with their shields. Instead, I'm using Percy with no gear on, who gives a shield equal to 80% of her own HP, and you can clearly see the damage difference when Lueira has an extra shield on top of her own, with scuffed Percy build, by the way. Now just imagine stacking really beefy shields in an optimized team in rotations. You're not just getting more survivability, you're also getting a lot of damage out of her at the same time. And finally, for her second passive, it gives her a 56% attack in HP, which helps both her healing and her shield scaling. Okay, now let's talk quickly about her card. Her card gives her a 40% magic attack in HP, and whenever her HP drops below 80%, all allies gain a 15% damage reduction for 45 seconds, and with a 19 seconds cooldown. So in practice, this effect usually happens once per fight, but it's still a solid defensive bonus. As you can see, her card is okay, nothing that crazy, not bad, but she actually has way much better alternatives. So if you want to maximize her overall DPS, the best card you can run on her is Galahad's. Lueira has already a lot of HP, and Galahad's card gives her a 60% defense, making her even more tankier. But more importantly, it gives her a shield equal to 200% of her own HP with 100% uptime, unless enemies manage to break it. And this is huge because it means Lueira can start dealing insane damage right from the beginning of the fight with no downtime and waiting to rebuild shields. Another very strong DPS oriented option is Lance's card. If you have it, it gives 60% HP, then percentage ignore damage reduction, which is extremely valuable against endgame bosses, raids, Star Incarnation in Avalon. And on top of that, the passive gives her a 60% crit damage, and she's basically can keep this buff for the entirety of the fight, since she's a healer and she should never realistically drop below 10% HP. And if you don't have it, Pride Wine is also a very good alternative. It gives her a 60% HP slightly less crit damage compared to Lance's card, but in exchange it also boosts your team's defense, which is always nice. Just don't forget she's a healer, and because of that, Vivien and Merlin's card are excellent options. They let you boost your team's damage, which is usually what do you want from a healer slot anyway, without sacrificing too much of her personal damage. So overall, her signature card is decent, but in most cases going for dupe is way more valuable. If you look at this graph here, you can clearly see the biggest power spike is going from T3 to T5. It's a massive jump, and yeah, you can definitely tell the devs really want to suck us dry. Morgan and now Lueira back to back. And for her pet, at T5, it gives 60% attack in HP, 20% crit resistance, 10% crit chance reduction. And if you use it as a main pet, every 20 seconds, the two allies with the lowest HP will recover 20% of their current HP and gain a shield equal to 20% of their HP for 10 seconds. Overall, it's an okay pet, nothing that crazy. You can think of it as an alternative to Circe's pet, and compared to Circe's, it gives less attack and HP, but in exchange, it provides a 25% additional damage, which actually can be better than Lueira's depending on your build and team setup and the enemies, of course. So as you can see, this pet is not a must-have, especially if you already own Circe's pet. It's nice pickup in the long run, mainly for Abyss or some towers or some weekly raids here and there. But outside of that, I would say it's an easy skip unless those modes are something you really care about. Now let's talk about builds. For her weapon, her best option damage-wise is the new Void Staff. It gives her 2 additional target, crit chance, and crit damage, which all work perfectly with her shield-based DPS. For her substats, you mainly want crit damage or attack. You might be thinking she's a healer, so crit damage shouldn't matter, and you'll be right, but only for her healing though. Crit damage doesn't affect her heals, but it does fully apply to her damage, so second crit damage increases her overall DPS. But if you want more survivability instead, going for attack is completely fine. So if you really want to focus on her healing only, Aquarius is a really good alternative. It gives her more added targets and better healing overall, but you lose some crit rate in exchange. And Goddess Staff is also a solid option if that's what you only have. For the chest piece, the best choice is Mirror Armor. It makes her much tankier. It also gives her a lot of HP, which directly increases her shield and her damage. If you don't have it, just use whatever god defensive chest you already own. And when it comes to treasures, Death Shield is currently the best option. It has better main stats. It gives her more healing and more crit, and you want to roll as much HP percentage as possible in her substats. You can also use the Royal Crown, Red Hair, Tempest, or Goddess Rain. All of them work well. For runes, I still think Thunderheart is very hard to replace. The newer ones doesn't have any active skill, which makes it the best in my opinion. That said, you can use any rune set you own with good substats. Just prioritize HP first, then crit damage. HP is the most important here for her passive damage and her overall survivability. You can already get plenty of crit damage from refines, buffs, and pets. Personally, I run double HP and double crit damage. I would say just aim for at least around 1 million HP before going all in crit damage if that's what you really want. There's a lot of good runes to run on her. Deep Sea, Wild Rune, Royal, Soleil, Goddess Rune, they all work fine on her. And for specialties, you want to focus on HP percentage. Triple HP is ideal, or double HP percentage with attack percentage line. Just avoid crit damage here and flat attack. And one last thing, Lueira benefits a lot from training, especially for older players. Even though training her gives you defense and effect resistance, but in return she will gain a lot of HP and attack percentage from it, which means bigger shields, more damage, and better healing overall. So the more you invest into her training, the strongest she becomes. And also don't forget free stats from gifts. Okay, now let's talk teams. Since she's a healer, you can honestly slot her in almost everywhere. She's extremely flexible, and top of that, her damage is actually really good. I did some early testing with slightly biased gear and her damage was way higher than my gear, which is honestly insane to see coming from a healer. I didn't include those numbers in the guide though, because that kind of comparison can be a bit misleading, but the most important thing to remember is this: she's a healer, you don't want to build a team around her. And she really shines when she has shields. The more she has, the better she performs, and once those are gone, she goes back to healing only mode. Another very important thing to keep in mind is that she doesn't benefit from Galahad's buffs. Her attacks buff only apply to mages. and she's not one. The same thing applies to Asteria buffs, for example. They can still buff your team though, just don't expect them to buff her damage if that's your intention. That said, she's still usable pretty much everywhere, and I would say must have to clear Abyss in towers. She makes gameplay a lot more comfortable and easy, especially against those hard-hitting enemies that one-shot your team the moment you enter the fight. And she also deals a big chunk of damage like your actual secondary carry or even out DPS your main carry, so you won't lose any damage by running a healer in your teams. Oh, one last thing, her animations are quite fast and fit perfectly for cubes farming teams. So if you're planning to farm Stonehenge 12 and 13 to max out your cubes, she's very good there. And I think that's about it. So should you actually port for Lueira? Honestly, yes, she's definitely very good. Especially for Abyss, she makes things way easier for new players. She helps a lot with clearing tower, hell mode story, without much struggle. And she's insanely comfortable to use for progression and also for her damage. It hurts a bit for me to say this, but she's going to replace Eren in almost every team I will run in the future. And I will probably won't need to use my Queen Gwen anymore unless I specifically need that revive and a lot of healing. That alone says a lot about how strong and convenient she is. Compared to other healers / supports we currently have, she doesn't really buff your teams like they do. However, she completely make up for that with her high and very solid DPS. And because of that, she's extremely good for raids, Abyss, story content, Stonehenge and cube farming. She's a fit everywhere. As for upgrade priority, you want to go for T5, after that T3 and then T1, and after that you can pick up her card if you really want to, but it's not mandatory in my opinion. When it comes to pets, Rand's pet, which is currently on the right top banner, is way better to go for than hers. I would only recommend Lueira's pet if you really need an alternative to Sears. Other than that, it's just like whatever. Now for a quick banners review, if you're looking at Lua, I would say only pull one or few copies of her if your goal is Q farming. Outside of that, she's barely usable anywhere else, and that's coming from a Lua enjoyer. Just make sure to get her card and Ran's card. They're one of the best to have in your account overall. For Ran, on the other hand, she's very strong after her recent buffs. She's great for raids, Star Incarnation, Avalon, and even some story stages here and there. And on top of that, her pet is one of the best pets you can invest in right now. As for Eren, it's really hard for me to recommend her after Lueira's release. She's still very good unit and one of my favorite supports in this game, but now she's a bit more niche. If you need shield while also boosting your team's attack and additional damage, then she's still your go-to, but for me, I think Lueira replaced her in almost every team I can think of, as for now. And for Mary, she's one of the lowest priority out of the bunch. She's basically only used for Avalon and once a week raids. That's about it. If I had to give you an overall priority, I would say Morgan and Dion if you don't already have them. Lueira, after that go for Lowen and Rand's pets since they can be used almost in all of your teams. Palamides is really strong melee DPS, if not the strongest right now. Then Lowen, and after that Lua. Even she's weak at the moment, having at least one copy of her can help with Q farming. Oh, I forgot Rand too, she's a boss killer. And after that Mary, and after that the rest of the pets if you need any. And yeah, that's it for the video. I really hope this video helped you out. If it did, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.